Throughout his career, Attorney General Sessions has fought for the First Amendment's first freedoms on behalf of all Americans. Today, he leads the department with uncompromising principle and undaunted integrity. Please join me in welcoming the 84th Attorney General of the United States, the Honorable Jeff Sessions.
Thank you. Thank you, John and Jesse. Thank you very much. Those are really valuable insights and comments, I think, that go to the core of who we are as Americans. And John Gore, thank you for your leadership at the Civil Rights Division. And Jesse, we thank you as our number 3 in the department, the leadership you're giving to us here every day. So we look forward to the panels that will be going on later today. I understand my friend Heather McDonald, who's has such tremendous insight into crime and punishment in America. Nadine Strawson, always principled and challenging former president of the ACLU, will be our keynote speaker. And I'm looking forward to the afternoon's conversation between Deputy Attorney General Rod Rosenstein and my good friend and former Secretary of Education, Senator Lamar Alexander. Among other things, Lamar is a lawyer, clerk for the great Judge John Minor Wisdom, and also served as president of the University of Tennessee, who used to have a football team. I'm not too sure about that, but and Rod is so talented, 28 years in the department, Wharton and Harvard graduate. So there's a lot to celebrate today. This is Constitution Day. I'd like to ask you to indulge me in a few thoughts. We have the oldest written Constitution still in use, 231 years. This brilliant document has stood the test of time. It has produced the most durable government because it is based on the founders' deep understanding of human nature, understanding of power, and understanding of law. This understanding did not arise out of thin air, but it was a product of centuries of development. The founders sought to create a government that made good decisions, which they believed could only arise if they were founded on truth. The First Amendment guaranteed freedom of religion, speech, assembly, petition, press. These weren't just words, not just words. They were fiercely held views, in many ways encapsulated the developing thought of the time and arose from some very specific grievances the colonies had. So the founders protected the liberty of Americans to express themselves. It was a core value of the new republic. They believed that from competing ideas, good ideas would dominate the false. Congress allowed prolonged debate. That's one of the things that they did. They allowed, in the Senate, really long debate. And they protected members of Congress from libel laws. And jury trials, for example, allowed witnesses and allowed them to be cross-examined in public. The goal was for objective jurors to find the facts and render true verdicts. The passion for justice has been a part of American life from the beginning, but we acknowledge that the principle has suffered at times over the centuries. From the Alien and Sedition Acts to slavery and segregation to religious and non-religious oppression, there have been pendulum swings that threatened our freedoms. But Madison was clear. He said freedom of speech is, quote, the only effectual guardian of every other right. But each time free expression has been curtailed, the founding principles recovered. Today, freedom of speech and thought have come most under attack on the college campuses. That should shock us. The words of the founder of the University of Virginia, as chiseled in his monument nearby, declare, quote, "For I have sworn on the altar of God eternal hostility against every form of tyranny over the mind of man. This was the vibrant spirit of our founders. May we not depart from it. But many are departing from these principles, or perhaps most dangerously, they have abandoned principle and truth altogether. If that is so, then they have chosen politics, ideology, passion, and power over principle, over law. When one exalts ideology and power, then suppression of opposing voices can be justified. But this is not America. This is not the way we were raised. And ideology and power politics are not law. They are the very opposite of law, in fact. As Americans, we know that it's far better to have a messy and contentious debate than to suppress the voices of dissenters, even though on occasion we might forget these values. As Senator McConnell often says, our history in America is of a teeming cauldron of competing ideas from the very beginning. Make no mistake, this Department of Justice is concerned about the suppression of speech that is now occurring. Defending the Constitution, defending civil rights, doing justice compels this Department of Justice to defend the right of speech, expression, religion, press, petition, and assembly. And defend these rights we will. And the most important time to defend a valued right is when it is being attacked or eroded. So last year, the Foundation for Individual Rights in Education surveyed 450 colleges and universities and found that 40% maintain speech codes that substantially infringe on constitutionally protected rights. Of the public colleges surveyed, which are legally bound by the First Amendment, fully one-third had written policies banning disfavored speech. So we are protecting the rights of students and free Americans, and we've been winning. I'd like to briefly mention a few examples. University of California, Berkeley, the home of the 1960s free speech movement. I remember that. I don't know if many in this audience do. Allegedly applied a stricter set of rules for inviting public speakers to conservative student organizations than other campus groups. A group of students filed suit contending the school effectively discriminated against them and their right to speak. The department got involved and we filed a statement of interest in the case. Last March, a student filed suit against Pierce College in Los Angeles, alleging that the college prohibited him from distributing copies of the Constitution on Constitution Day. That seems pretty horrible to me. And outside of the designated free speech zone on campus. How big was this free speech zone? 616 square feet. Barely the size of a couple of dorm rooms. Outside that space, students did not have freedom of speech on a public university. The student sued and we filed a statement of interest on his behalf. Georgia's Gwinnett College allegedly limited free speech to just 15 ten-thousandths of 1% of the campus. Even within that tiny area, students had to get permission from campus officials in advance to speak. They could only use the free speech zones at a specific time, and they could not say things that might, quote, disturb the comfort of persons, close quote. In other words, free speech at Gwinnett College was a very limited privilege, not a right, even inside the free speech zone. If disturbing someone's comfort is the standard for banning speech, then anybody can stop anyone else from speaking their mind by acting offended. This is nowhere close to a legitimate First Amendment standard. Every great political leader in this country has disturbed the comfort of persons. Abraham Lincoln disturbed the comfort of slave owners. Dr. Martin Luther King disturbed the comfort of segregationists. Susan B. Anthony disturbed the comfort of quite a number of people. Change has never been effected without disturbing the comfort of persons, and likely never will. So the Department of Justice filed a statement of interest in this case as well. In each of the cases I've mentioned, the courts have agreed with us. Attempts to dismiss two of the cases I've mentioned have been denied by judges who adopted the department's positions. A third was dismissed only because the college changed its speech policy, rendering the case moot. At the end of May, we also filed a statement of interest in a lawsuit against the University of Michigan. The university sought to forbid harassment and bullying and actions motivated by bias. They also forbade speech that is interpreted to be demeaning, bothersome, or hurtful. But the rules did not give clear definition about what any of these terms mean. These rules, it seems, are enforced by a group of campus bureaucrats and campus police with the Orwellian name of the Bias Response Team, BRT. Students are encouraged to report their complaints to the BRT, which presumably then investigates to see if the speech was bothersome to them. In the last school year, BRT logged more than 150 cases. Within days of our statement of interest, I'm pleased to say the university changed several of its speech policies, and I understand they'd been evaluating that prior to that filing. But this is a positive step, and I want to commend the university for making that change, and I'm pleased that the General Counsel for the University of Michigan is here today. Make no mistake, the issues you will be discussing today involve protected core liberties possessed by all Americans, even students. Those protections provided by our Constitution are of inestimable value. No third-level bureaucrat, committee, top official at any university has the power to take them away. This has gone too far. It must end. The country protects noisome assembly, immoderate speech, provocative speech. Whether left or right, suppression of competing voices is not the American way. We have reached a pivotal, perhaps even historic moment. It's time to stand up to the bullies on campus, bullies in our culture. There are radicals out there that have openly and systematically justified actions that would deny Americans the right to speak out against their favored ideological agenda. We must put an end to such nonsense. It's time to put a stake in its heart. We have to stand up to it, and we will do so resolutely. We are going to keep fighting for the great freedoms vouchsafed to the American people, and we will endeavor to do so according to the highest constitutional and legal standards, and we plan to keep winning. Thank you very much for joining us today, and we wish you every success in the meeting throughout the day. Thank you very much. Thank you.